Okay, continuing. This is from David Rockefeller. He says, it would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during these years. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government which will never again know war. See, the promise of peace and security. But only peace and prosperity for the whole of humanity. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national auto-determination practiced in the past centuries. From David Rockefeller at the Bilderberg meeting in 1992. Now this is why people like Donald Trump are so hated in the media, because he is more of a national, for the national sovereignty of the United States. He's not for the world bankers and this world conspiracy, so he says. Okay. Here's something from J. Edgar Hoover. He famously said, the individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous he cannot believe it exists. It is that, you know, like Woodrow Wilson said, it is that subtle, so organized, so pervasive, so complete, so interlocked. You wouldn't believe it exists, but it does exist. And they have put their soldiers in every facet of society. Now I was not part. Well, it was not a membership, but I read the Bible with groups of Christians that were meeting in the park back in the 90s, and the one that always was the leader was the one that was promoting Zionism. Wherever you go, they've penetrated everywhere. They control everything. And that's when they're going to put their Antichrist in. They're going to have a false Messiah. Because remember, Jesus, they say, wasn't the Messiah. They claim that Jesus was a sorcerer. Just like they did in the first century. You know, they said, well, by Beelzebub you do these miracles. And Jesus says, oh yeah, if I do them by Satan, if I cast out devils by Satan, who do your sons cast them out by? Therefore, they will be your judges. Now, they also said Jesus' mother was a hairdresser and she had sex with many men. You know, in other words, they were saying she was a whore, and that's the same thing in the first century. These things are written in the Talmud, the Pharisee book that they had written in the first century, and so on. And they said Jesus' mother was a whore, and that Jesus was born of fornication. And that's what they told Jesus with his other. We be not born of fornication, but we are children of Abraham. And Jesus says, yeah, if Abraham was your father, you would not seek to kill me. For you know, or Moses was not. We are disciples of Moses, you know. He says, if Moses was your father, you would not seek to kill me, because that one wrote about me. And yeah, it's now I want to you know, the Masonic is the pyramid, and the Jews spoke about their temple being at the top of the pyramid. God already knew their plan. Let me read to you something that God said about them. It says in Isaiah 51:26, speaking about Babylon. And this is Babylon the Great also in our day. Because she reigns over the kings of the earth. See, by her all nations, by her sorceries were all nations deceived. It's witchcraft, it's Satanism, sorcery. It's happening. And they shall not take of thee they shall not take of thee a corner. They shall not take of thee a stone for a corner. You're not going to be that cornerstone in the pyramid. Nor a stone for foundations. But thou shalt be desolate forever. And I will make thee a burnt mountain. That's why God says that they will eat up her fleshly parts and burn her with fire, Babylon the Great. Now you have to be aware of this conspiracy, because in Revelation it says, "Come out of her, my people." So you have to be aware of where she's infiltrated and come out of her. And it's pretty much going to leave you completely out of this world, totally. And very likely alone. So it's time to come out of that. Those religions that are controlled by Judaism and Masonism, because they infiltrated the churches with Masons to control Christianity and to make it go along with their plans of their new order. You have to be aware of that. And they took a pledge to do the 501(c), and all churches have, just about. And the reason why that is because they are also come under that. They're not allowed to speak, comment about these things. And Jehovah's Witnesses are included in that. And that's why this thing is so sad. It's so sickening. Because no one is telling the truth. I mean, Jehovah's Witnesses, they have a very good grasp on the basic Bible doctrines. They know that the soul dies, that we needed the ransom of Jesus Christ to live forever. Because we go back to the dust. You know, even the angels have bodies, spirit bodies. Paul was speaking about a new body. There's not spirits that float around. Every person of God, every being of God, to exist, to live in the moment, for that moment, they have to be in a body. This is the body that God gave us, a fleshly body. When our eyes are plucked out, we can't see. When our head is cut off, we can't think. I mean, this is the body. We're not spirit. We're created in the image of God. But this is a new thing, to have people that are in the image of God in a physical body. And the Bible says very plainly, just like his friend Lazarus, he says, Lazarus is sleeping. We're asleep. Even as Paul said, we shall not all sleep when Christ returns, but those that are alive when he returns, they will meet him immediately in the air. Those that are part of his bride class, you know, those that will rule with him as kings and priests. But, yeah, it says, we shall not all sleep. See, even they sleep until the marriage of the Lamb. They're all asleep in the grave, because that hasn't happened yet, because Satan hasn't been cast out of heaven yet. How do we know that? Why? Well, because it says after he's cast out of heaven, it says power was given unto the beast after that happened to continue for 42 months. It's the same period of the persecution of the God's woman, 1,260 days. And they shall be given into his hand for a times, and a half a time. That's 2 together is 3.5 years. That's what all this equals. It's the same period of time. There's no 7-year tribulation. In the book of the Daniel, 9th chapter, that's speaking about the first coming of Jesus Christ. It has nothing to do with the Antichrist whatsoever. Jesus Christ kept the covenant in force for 7 years for the nation of Israel. And he was caused sacrifice and gift offering to cease in the midst of those 7 years. That's when he laid his body down as a sacrifice. And then the covenant was kept in force for 3.5 years, exclusively to the nation of Israel, the Jewish people there, until that was completed. And then it was opened up to the whole of Gentiles. And Cornelius was baptized and received the Holy Spirit. And I also see a lot of things on the internet now about people healing by the Holy Spirit and speaking in tongues. There's this one thing on there. And it's possible for Satan to do healings. Remember they said to Jesus Christ, "Hey, Jesus Christ, did we not prophesy in your name and do many powerful works in your name?" And he will say, "I never knew you. Depart from me." So people could be using the name of Jesus and yet be doing powerful works by Satan. Now we know that in the book of Acts, the 3rd chapter, there was a man that was paralyzed from his birth. And when Peter asked God to heal him, he immediately rose up. I mean, and then he was leaping, you know. These things don't happen with satanic cures. And also they claim to be speaking in tongues, and it's like ba 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 ba, and it's just nonsense. And they're trying, and the guy, tries to drum this into their head, so the finally goes, oh, blah, 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 and he's doing the same. It's fake. It's totally fake, And yeah, so Jehovah's Witnesses have many good things. See, this is the thing: is they are the newest, they are the latest. They are the most accurate in the knowledge of God. They have the accurate knowledge of God. And that's why they try to control their members so much, because they don't want this accurate knowledge uncontrolled and allowed to grow and allowed to flourish. There's a lot of these people that are apostates. They call themselves apostates. And they're trying to go back to Christendom. They're saying, oh, yeah, there might be a hellfire and Trinity and... I mean, they're just so backwards. And if you listen to them, they're so boring. They don't even know what they're talking about, That old boring dead religion, And so, no, you build on what you learned. And you learn new things, you don't get rid of the good things. But I think that is part of the Masonic agenda. I think that even these ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, they're working, they've probably been Masons all their lives, and now they have a new assignment. Let's pretend you're apostates, because you will not find the true knowledge of the Bible. Everybody that's Jehovah's Witnesses, they think, oh, maybe the apostates, they must have the truth. And they go out there and they find all this garbage. No, they don't have. They're fake apostates, I mean, the real people that they call apostates, but that have the real new light that you need. They're hard to find. I haven't found any, but I'm telling you the truth, and I want to help you. Don't be afraid. There's no fear in love. God has thrown the fear outside. I know what you're going through. I know how hard it is when you're told those things every day, But remember what the scriptures say. It says, now the man of God examines all things, though he is not examined by any man. Don't be afraid to examine these things, because it can save your life. Because there's a time coming when you have to bow to the devil and receive that mark. And it's not celebrating birthdays and what they call being no part of the world. I mean, it's so confusing. But nobody knows, is it going to be a chip? Well, nobody knows what it is exactly. But we know that it's going to be some kind of an identification. They can tell whether you worship the beast or not. It has to be some kind of identification. Otherwise, you could go to the next town where they didn't know you, and you can buy and sell over there, Yeah, it says, and they should be killed, the ones that don't worship the beast. So it's all coming. The tribulation is all coming. And these apostates say, oh, the Jehovah's Witnesses are so mean, They have pictures of Armageddon with buildings falling and people screaming. It's going to be worse than that, what the Bible, you read it in the Bible, it's God's word. They're against God's word, these apostates. They're not for God. They're not for Jehovah. They're against it. And, steer clear. They're just phonies, man. They're probably, like I say, there's some weird thing going on there, and they're not truly God's servants whatsoever. Some of them promote homosexuality, for crying out loud. I mean, it's amazing. So I hope this will help you, and please write to me. I just want to share things with you that aren't being shared with you. There's a lot of interesting things I've learned, because I followed Jesus Christ in that at a time in my life. I knew that nothing could be wrong than selling what you have and giving it to the poor and following Jesus Christ. In fact, in Luke 12th chapter, Jesus says, sell what you have and give to the poor, and give alms, and be like those that wait for their Lord, that when arriving, he may open to them immediately. So he says, if he finds you that way on the first watch or the third watch, blessed are those servants, So, yeah, I decided that was the way to go. Not with all the suit and tie garbage and all the corporation stuff and legalism, but with just following Jesus Christ. This I know he approved of, and that's why I did it, because I wanted to make sure that what I did was at his instruction and was approved by him. So please write to me.